It's all about the process, step by step. Today, you can start successfully in your business by using a proven process that works. Welcome to the Start Successfully podcast, where veteran entrepreneur Gabe Arnold shares his proven step-by-step process, the process you need to start successfully in any business. And now, here's your host, Gabe Arnold.
All right, welcome to episode 5 of the Start Successfully podcast. In this episode, it's a little bit different. I actually have two good friends of mine on, and we just kind of having a conversation about entrepreneurship. Is the first episode. There's actually going to be part 1 and part 2, and then the second, the second part that we get into will be about branding. And I originally had both these guys on, James and Gary, to talk about branding, but what I realized is that they have a lot more to offer than just the branding conversation. And so I thought, hey, rather than cut this down and try to edit it all out, I would just share it to you guys as is because I think it's really valuable. So rather than making it a 2-hour plus episode, we'll be breaking it into 2 episodes, one for this week and one for next. And like I said, I just feel like that will be the most valuable. These guys know a lot about working hard, about failure, about success, and then ultimately about how to brand yourself successfully. And so for today, I wanted to share with you a quote from the episode, actually, that I think will help you in your business, in starting successfully, and in finding real entrepreneurial success. And it's this. It's from James on the episode. Viciously seek opportunities, and that's what James says in the episode, and it just really stuck out to me as like that's the difference between success in starting up or doing something new and failure, is that when you grab a hold and you viciously seek those opportunities, then you have the opportunity to be successful. It just really stood out to me from the whole episode. So like I said, a little bit of a different format, but one that I really enjoyed. I felt like there was just a ton of value. And so right after this break, we'll get right into it.
This episode is brought to you by Copywriter Today. With Copywriter Today, you get a team of dedicated writers working for you on your content marketing needs. Get your email marketing, blog posting, white paper, sales copy, lead magnets, and so much more, written by professional writers that really understand how to drive your business. Copywriter Today is a one-stop solution, a subscription-based service with a low monthly cost. To get started now with a special offer just for you, visit copywritertoday.com/start successfully. That's copywritertoday.com/start successfully.
All right, so today I am super excited. I have 2 guests on at once, which that's brand new for me. I usually just do one person or all by myself, which I know is not as exciting by any means, but I have a couple really cool guys on here, Gary and James, and they have something really unique that I think is valuable to anybody in any business, but they have a unique challenge, and I have just been beyond in their kind of like business industry, and I've just been beyond impressed by what they've done and their branding and marketing sense. They're just genius at it. And I remember this podcast kind of originates from almost 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know, a while ago. And I remember when this crazy kid came up to me and he had IBB on his jacket, and he's like, "Hi, I'm James. Your talk was great." And like, he's like, "We got to get together." And I totally failed him because I was like in the middle of a bunch of projects and it didn't happen then.
Oh, no worries, man. No worries.
But fortunately, James doesn't hate me and he's here today. But anyway, I'm really excited to have James and Gary on. And I thought to start with, I would just have maybe James, you kind of give us a little bit of background about yourself from like, the early days, kind of where you got started, who you are, where you're from, and then where you are in your career today, just the basics. And then Gary, I'll have you introduce yourself, and then we'll get kind of into the meat of what I'm hoping to learn. Because like, as I mentioned a few minutes ago before we got started here, I basically just do this podcast because I'm selfish and I want to learn from other people. So hopefully I can learn, and hopefully everybody else listening today can learn too. So take it away, James.
Hey, we're learning already. So that's right. That's right. You're teaching us. So, but yeah, Gabe, thank you so much, man. I remember that moment. I remember. So before I kind of dig into my background, but it was Lake Kids Biz. You were presenting, and I just remember you did like you had that like a drawing, and it like created this whole community thing, this marketing, business community, and I was just like, this guy is amazing. Like, so, but so I'm very excited to be doing this, and I know that it's been great that we've reconnected. That wasn't the last time we bumped into each other, and the reality is all three of us, I'd like to think that getting this together was easy, but for those of you out there, people that are good at what they do very rarely have time to just do whatever. And two, I think that all three of us love what we do. So it's not like we check in and then clock out at any time, at all. It's 365 days a year that we are just loving what we do and trying to get better and help each other get better as well. So thank you, Gabe. That was awesome. I still remember that moment forever.
Nice.
But in a good way. So,
Good.
but so basically, just I'm the oldest of four boys. My mom and dad were amazing, and they still are amazing. But they never complained. They're always positive about everything. And I always try to tell people that the positive things and the sayings, the cliche sayings out there, they're really the only true facts about life. But when you're younger, you just think that the parents and coaches and teachers are trying to trick you into thinking some way or some easy answer to some difficult thing you're going through. But Gary and I always joked we're just a couple of punk kids from Lake County. But I had three younger brothers, so we always had a positive influence from my parents. So that carried over into, I ran cross country and track, and it was just kind of something where I knew that I could push myself as hard as I could for as long as I could, that one day, somehow, some way, I could win. And, so I ended up getting a scholarship to run in college, Notre Dame College in South Euclid. And that's where kind of things went extremely wrong athletically, but academically, Jason Chuhey, he is my hero. He just opened my eyes to that there's more to life than sports. And that's when my academics took off. That's when that was the birth of my leadership quest, I guess you could say, that I always wanted, I ended up being president of student government. I was editor of a newspaper, captain on the track team, had a whole bunch of things going on, but I was building my resume, and I graduated spring of '07. Was a motivational speaker for a little bit for Monster.com. That was amazing, but it was this giant drop kick to the face of, I'm like, okay, I got my degree, I got a great resume, nobody's calling me for a job. Like, what the heck's going on? Where's my salary? I demand salary,
Right.
And I demand a leadership and management position because I went to college.
Went to school for, right?
I read a book, put me in charge of 100 people, okay? I have zero experience, but put me in charge. So just kind of, one of my internships got me into the industry that we're in. And I'll be honest with you, so it's January 21st, 2008. I took this position as pretty much a last resort because there were no good salary jobs or good management jobs or whatever you want to call it. And again, I was too new and had zero clue about life to realize that, oh, hey, it's 2008, brace yourself. The sky's about to fall. So just kind of, I kind of by last resort, got into this industry, but I knew it was a great opportunity to help people. and I knew it was a great opportunity. Circling back to my, I didn't want to play football, basketball, baseball because I knew the coach, if he or she didn't like me, could bench me. I liked running because it's either I'm good or I'm not, and I fail on my own merit or I succeed on my own merit. So I like the idea of controlling my own destiny, and not having to worry about the CEO's brothers, bosses, cousins, nephews, aunt, her
former
daughter,
her
former roommate, her daughter graduated college, so she's going to get this job that I been working the last 10 years towards, and so I knew it was just an opportunity, and really that began my quest, at least in our industry of helping people, do what they have to do. But really, it's just I always circle back to I'm just a punk kid from Lake County, and I have the best family and friends, and I've had the most amazing mentors in the world, and just super excited to be here right now. And my wife Erica is my inspiration and my ultimate reason for being. And then we actually due February 25th with our first child.
That's
baby
awesome.
boy
Very
Joshua
exciting.
James, so little JJ, IBB JJ.
Nice.
So I hope that's kind of painted the picture.
Yeah,
but,
that's excellent.
my grandparents sacrificed a lot to come. I would say the land of opportunity here in Lake County,
Ohio.
My grandma was picking cotton in Tennessee, and my grandpa was working in a coal mine in West Virginia, and because they wanted something better, I have the life of my dreams, and it's because of them and because of their sacrifice.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. Thank you. So what about you, Gary? How do you fall into this picture?
I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to follow that, but I'm going to do my best. Let's see here. My mother was one of I think 13 or 14 brothers and sisters when she grew up in the Philippines.
Wow.
And she was the first to come over from our family to Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to seek better opportunities. And what was really amazing about what my mother did for all of the Caledonians was she actually helped them come over and immigrate from the Philippines to Canada and to other opportunities, where she ended up deciding to come down to the Cleveland Clinic because she was a medical technologist for her entire life, and she worked in the hospital's third shift for 30 plus years. Hardest working person I have ever known. She raised two boys, my older brother and me, my older brother Godfrey, and I can't believe it when I'm listening to James tell his story, because my mother literally traveled from the other side of the world. We ended up in a different country. I'm from Toronto. I was born in Toronto, and somehow we ended up in this little town called Perry, Ohio, and in the land of opportunity, Lake County, Ohio. And here I found my best friend. Here I found, my wife, which I'll get into, and I have my daughter here. When you think of it on that kind of scale, it's unbelievable. Crazy. And then you can't help but kind of believe in fate and kind of believe in destiny. So
yeah.
I'm just sitting here right now thinking about it, and I'm kind of getting chills. But, let's think here. I think the only one thing that James left out of his entire life story was the fact that he was in a band. That was really cool. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about that for a minute, because he is pretty good on the microphone and on the guitar. But I kind of have a little bit of a...
Yeah, Gary was a professional wrestler.
I'm about to go into it.
So we're bringing out our past here, buddy. All right, so
I got that's where I was going with it. But so when I was in high school, my friends and I had this. We did the backyard wrestling when that was a big thing in the 90s, all that good stuff. just really into professional wrestling, we ended up meeting all these kids in Willoughby that also had a a backyard wrestling company in Willoughby, Ohio. We met them on an internet message board, and somehow they decided that we should all meet up and have a joint backyard fake wrestling show.
Oh my God.
So it was like June, and I think I was in my junior year of high school. We go and do this, and it was just excellent. We just had so much fun, and we kept going back to Willoughby from Perry. We'd drive literally out every single day. I was thinking about switching high schools because we wanted to just hang out with all of our friends so much. And again, I'm going to go back to the destiny, to the fate thing, that I found my best friends on the internet in backyard wrestling, which is, not a thing that many people end up finding each other with. Yeah, and they don't do that. Yeah, it's just, and we've met each other on an internet message board. It's just crazy how this all came together. Me and my friends, we were backyard wrestling for years, and then we decided a handful of us, maybe like 4 or 5, decided that we want to take this to the next level. We are talented enough, we believe in ourselves enough to take this to the next level. So we sought out training. We all paid money, and I think 5 of us graduated and became professional wrestlers. So
wow.
I spent the next 10 years, maybe 10 plus, traveling all over the state of Ohio, some of Pennsylvania, some of Michigan, and I did that for a living for a little while.
So what do I Google to see some of these, to see your wrestler name?
He was Rufio.
Oh my goodness.
I would moonlight on the weekends as a pirate named Rufio. So that was pretty great. But yeah, it's just a big passion.
This is amazing, dude. This is like nothing I ever imagined that this interview is going to be like.
Oh no!
Did your mind just get blown right now?
We're taking you places you never been.
This is incredible. I'm sorry.
But also too, that's how we met. Was our friend Mike Hutter, who follow him at Ethan Carter III, EC3. He's on TV. He's a professional wrestler. Like he made it out of the
independent
wrestling
circuit.
Scene. Yeah, but that's actually how I met Gary. I was buddies with Mike, and like who's this guy that's doing backflips everywhere, and so he's like a pretty good guy. Like definitely, because that too, I was a lead singer in a band, and living in my grandma's basement, like the band's gonna make it, man, and just kind of. So it's just kind of surreal that the two of us are businessmen and are business consultants, and like are all about being an adult, so just kind of, but and that's where too, I think, but that's important because again, I feel like when we did begin our, because Gary started at the same place I did, 9 years ago, and it's just weird how you get into the career world or you get into the adult world, or whatever you want to call it. And it's like I don't know about you, but like I felt like I had to like hide part of myself away, or like shut part of myself off.
Yeah.
Where and again, it was you're like, well, am I is who I am good enough? And it's just kind of it is hard because you're starting from the beginning and you don't have any track record anymore as to if you're any good at anything. But that's something with the branding, with our videos. Like at our core, Gary and I are entertainers. What I'm saying? Like people are our oxygen. We love people, but more importantly, we love making people happy. We love making people laugh. And we want
we want to make them feel good.
We want people to feel good. So where, and I guess I'll save it for later if once we get into the more branding stuff. But once we realized that, hey, if we're ourselves and we care about others, like we naturally care about others, we naturally want others to be happy. Like, why aren't we incorporating that into our quote unquote business life or our career world? You know what I'm saying? Like, once we inserted our personalities and who we actually were back, like, things have been insanely good.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are people supposed to trust us if they don't know us?
Yeah.
We have to tell you about everything that we've been through, because
that's right.
Our entire story, our story it's weird, it's crazy, but so is everybody.
Yeah.
But we're not here to sugarcoat it. We're here to tell you about it because we're embracing it.
Nice.
Yeah, we're just a failed musician and a failed
wrestler.
Yeah, that's all. It's fine.
Great.
I don't even know what left off at the story.
No, that's good. So basically, one of you was in a band that we haven't heard about, which is okay, and one of you is a wrestler that I need a picture sent after this so that everybody can see it if they go to the show notes page.
I'm looking at one right now, actually. I got it.
And then that doesn't get to the point where you're like, I can raise a family on being that good. And I relate and I laugh because I was in a band, and that is not the way to make a living unless,
right.
Unless you're,
I have a friend. I have a friend that's a professional manager and like whatever. That I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's difficult at best.
It's tough. Absolutely. Yeah, and you have that aha moment, like where you meet that person and you're like, you know what, I could see myself, being with them the rest of my life, or you get into a serious relationship and you're like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to buy a house? How am I supposed to do anything making $8 an hour and then trying to get this band off the ground? So
so I totally relate.
Much respect, man. Much respect. Well, band's gonna make it.
I was actually telling a good friend of mine last night where we were having some dinner, and I was telling him about the professional wrestling world, and he was just inquiring about it, and I was telling him, you would spend all day traveling, and you would get to the show, and you would spend literally all day there because the shows don't start until later on in the evening. Sometimes you would help set up, and your matches, whenever during the evening. So you're there for like 10 hours.
To work 30 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, to work maybe 30 minutes, right? And then when you're done, there's been times over my illustrious 10-year career where they said, sorry, Gary, we didn't make as much money as we had hoped.
So here's $20.
We're going to get you next. No, we're going to get you next time.
Oh, my God.
I said, what do you mean? Like, I spent all day here. I called off on my real job that pays my bills so I could be here. So I'm making really good decisions at the time, and sometimes I left with no pay, and a beat up body, sore going home, and just for nothing to show for it. Besides the experience.
That's the game, baby.
Yep.
Love of the game.
So I mean, that's some really good background. That I confess I'm not as faithful an IBB follower as I should be, or you haven't told this story on any of your lives, which might be the real truth. But but anyway, that's great background, and I think that what you're pointing out there, and we'll get into what we're actually getting to here, but I think that this is important because there's a couple key things that I've noticed about, number one, people that I enjoy hanging around, and so now it makes sense why I like being around you guys. After I got over some of my shock, because I'm super super introverted, which nobody believes me, but I am. So first, I think there's a couple things that are important for people to realize, or I notice, at least. Maybe they're not important, but I notice these things. Number one, I have yet to meet somebody that's successful as an entrepreneur with their own career
or being an independent agent and basically running their own, business or career, who hasn't either been through a lot of adversity or seen a lot of adversity firsthand, like in their family. I don't think that happens. And then that's only one piece of the puzzle, because I think, unfortunately, I hate to I don't know how to say it except for I see in the next generation, like in the millennials, who I love 99% of them. But I see that sometimes I see them saying, oh, well, all I have to do is fail. And that's not really the answer either. I feel like that's a total lie too. So it's not just like you guys have faced some failure like I have. I've faced some pretty good failures. That's one part of the equation, because it toughens you up and the big if, like in the equation, is if you're willing to go back and do another match, even though you didn't get paid last time. And that's like the big difference of, oh, I need to fail hard in order to be successful. That's not true.
Right.
The real truth of it is, can you fail and then get up the next day, go to your regular job and keep being a good employee, and then the next day go do another event, play live with your band and make your $30 or whatever you do, or you go to the next wrestling match, or be absolutely sure that you have the best service or technology product or offering out there, or whatever you're starting up, and go to your 50th sales meeting and get told no. Yep. So it's not just the failure, but it's really being persistent and enduring. But
right.
But I think
too, just being having the mentality that I'm going to give it 110%, and they're going to give me nothing.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because 5 years from now, they'll remember my 110%, and then and then they'll come back and say, "Hey, I remember you. You gave it all. I'm ready to do business now," or "I'm ready for your services now." You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta I don't know. People laugh, but I mean, to me, I reflect on the first, especially 3 years, probably 5 years of us doing what we were doing. It was like getting drop kicked to the face multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And being like, I'm fine. I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're bleeding everywhere, but it's fine.
I'm good.
It's just a flesh wound, so just, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, the whole I just need to fail. I just need to fail. Well, you need.
That's not the only
failure
case.
Failure is a must, but failure is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We, Gary and I all the time are, things don't go our way most of the day.
Yeah.
And, and it's nice to have each other to lean on, but it's not an option. You don't start something that you're not ready to finish.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the big thing too, is failure's a must, but it's not an option.
Right.
I would want to bring it back to in the middle of a wrestling match, things are supposed to go a certain way. That's not a secret or anything like that.
Script.
But I promise, everything gets messed up all the time. But you have to go out there and make adjustments. It's live, and so is real life. It's just happening, and you got to make adjustments on the fly like that, because there's going to be that bell at the end of the day, or the end of the match, or whatever you want to call it. But you have to make adjustments. You have to make changes, because no matter what you do, you started it, and you got to finish, whether you win or you lose at the end.
And Gary, I'm sorry, Gary, you just made me think, I know that, for example, when we do a Facebook Live, and Gabe, I know you're really good with those, the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of people is, I'm like, yeah, you should do a Facebook Live. It's, it's fun, or, whatever. And, oh no, I couldn't do it live or whatever. Excuse me. But Gary, your point, like you just light bulbed me right now. Like I just had a little aha moment. Like real life, every day, every decision you make and every action you take, you need to realize that that's Facebook Live. That's that is
Right.
everything you do ever is
in front
live.
of
Is a live
Yeah,
audience. Yep.
You're on
Yes.
display for the world to see, and like just because on your Snapchat you could redo something or your whatever it is, like no, you have to live as though everyone's gonna know what you did every second of the day your entire life. Like what you got to live as though everyone's gonna know everything.
Yeah. And I think along those lines, Gary gets it, and James, you're about to get it because you're close. But like when you think about what you do when you think about what you do every day, and then for me, I'm just a couple of years ahead. My 5-year-old son walks up and asks me a question about something. The moment he showed up in my life, everything changed completely, because you're talking about which I think is a great analogy for everybody, kids or no kids. Like you are live, everybody's watching.
Yeah.
And they're all important. They're super important. And I love the people I work with. I love working with you guys. I love my clients, my partners, my friends, my teammates. They're all great. But then all that pales in comparison to when your little human comes up and asks you a question.
Yeah. Yep.
and so then, then you're like, oh man, I really need to have the answer. That scares you straight, if nothing else does, I think.
Yeah, you're like, let me go rehearse this answer for a little bit. I'll be right back.
Yeah, right. I am in training still. My daughter Quinn, she is 6 months here, really soon, but she hasn't started speaking or anything like that. So I haven't crossed that bridge. I see it coming though, because the way that she looks at me.
She's going to be asking you the hard questions.
What are you doing? Oh, man. And I'm so excited to answer them. I just hope I do it right. You know what I mean?
There's nothing more magical in my entire life. And I feel like I've had a good life and experienced a lot of good things. And there's nothing more magical than that. So, and I think even earlier on, because I think a couple things, for everybody listening here today, some of us in life, I think, make the wise choice to not have children. And I know people like that, and I completely respect that, actually, and really understand it. But even in that case, where it's not your path, your calling, which is just as good as for those of us that do choose to do that, you still have those moments where it's your niece, your nephew, or some little kid comes up to you on the street in the total innocence, and you get to interact at that level. So we all understand like what it's like to have somebody look up to us and depend on us completely, even if it's babysitting. Because I have 5 younger brothers and an older sister, and I have I forget now, 4 or 5 nephews and a couple nieces. Like I have a big family now, so it's like even when my first nephew showed up, I was holding him and I was like scared to death. It was like a crazy experience. And he wasn't my son, but So yeah, I mean, I guess we've all kind of shared our stories here a little bit, and I think that's important, because a lot of the times we hear the interviews or read the books, and it's all the good stuff, which is great, but it doesn't always allow us to identify.
Nobody talks about the 95% of the time when things don't go right.
Yeah.
Right.
When it's next to impossible to have a positive attitude.
Yeah, exactly. Or when you have $100 to your name and you're like, I'm going to be okay.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I left that part.
Isn't that when
18,
you moved to
Chicago? What's that?
Not James, Gabe.
Okay.
Your story, right? You moved to Chicago with $100, right?
Yeah, I started what is Business Marketing Engine and Copywriter Today, those two products. I basically started those with $100 to my name, sleeping on my friend's couch in Chicago quite a while ago.
Unbelievable.
So I was extremely near to being homeless. I'm really fortunate to have really good people in my life and friends and family that have helped me out when I needed it. But I've tasted how close I could be to being homeless when things didn't go my way, which happens. But
and I just want to clear something too. I had $18, 50 grand in student loans, and I was living in my grandma's basement. And my car, I had a 98 Grand Am with a cracked windshield. The floor had rusted out on the driver's side. So when it would rain, I'd have like a giant puddle. Like, it was basically like Lake Erie was like accumulating in my
in
car.
your car.
And then too, like you go into the, when no one knows who the heck you are, like you're driving all over the place. Like, anyone who would ever talk to you remotely about what you do. I remember like having a great meeting at the person's house or business, and I walk out to my car and my car won't start. So I got to go back, full of shame and embarrassment, and just be like, hey, I know that you were ready to,
sign up,
put your future in my hands.
Yeah.
But I need you to get me out of your driveway first. So, no, dude. I think that's it. Like your $100 on your friend's couch, like that is what every day drives you. Like,
yep, that's what makes me successful today still, which is why it was valuable.
Yeah, and it's why it's like, well, why do I want more? Well, it's just because I've had nothing, and I like the idea of securing a better future for my life, my family, but more importantly, my clients. Like, my clients deserve it,
right?
And I don't want them on a couch with $100.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember back in 2008 when I was, studying for my license for my business. I was doing that in candlelight because we had the electricity gone. It was out in our apartment that we lived in because my roommate and I didn't have enough money to make it work, and I was charging my cell phone out in the hallway and just studying everything that I could, this giant book in the candlelight. I'll never forget it. I was like, what does that word say?
Dude, that's like Harry Potter style, man. There you go.
That's why you're a boss now.
You didn't pay your electric bill on purpose. I know you wanted to be like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Proving a point. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that like tasting that fear or being in those moments is hands down the most valuable thing that's ever happened to me, because I know what that feels like, and I'm not going back to that. But
no way, man. But if you did, then
I could bounce back up again. I'd be fine.
Yeah, and Gabe, and like, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I feel like if the three of us didn't start with, at zero, basically, there's no way that we could appreciate anything we have. Like, there's no way that we could like just love everything and everyone that's come into our lives since.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just no way we would, so again, would I want to go through it again? No.
Probably not. Yeah.
It could
probably not. Is it?
Yeah, no, I'd never want to do it again. But I don't want to live in a world. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in a world where the three of us didn't have to go through that, because that's what brought us to this moment, and that's how all three of us are able to be on the same wavelength and understand what what the other person's gone through, and that's, to me, that's the ultimate respect. And that is the I have so much respect for people who have had to fight and claw and scrape to get what they want out of life, and didn't listen to everybody else that said, well, you need to slow down. You don't work so hard. Like, why are you why would you go into business for yourself? Like, why wouldn't you just go? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not for everybody, but I remember I told my grandma, I was like, I'm gonna go into business for myself, and I'm gonna get these licenses. I'm gonna do this, and she started crying. And she started crying, and she's like, no one's gonna buy from you. No one's gonna be, no one's gonna sign up. You have a college degree. You did this, and you had that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that didn't go how I planned.
If only that mattered.
I grab, I'm gonna go down the basement and think about what I did. I guess I don't know. So, but no, so like that's too, like, even friends and family with the best intentions,
Didn't back you
their
up.
their fear for you, and they don't, they don't want you to fail, but it's like it's
Right.
hard because you got to be very selective and aware of who is telling you to slow down and who is telling
Yeah.
you that, hey, you can do it. We got you. Now, Erica, my wife, if she tells me to slow down, I am stopping there. I mean,
Right.
It's completely,
It's
what I'm saying?
different.
So
Yep.
it's definitely different, you know what I'm saying? But, there's certain people in your life that say, hey, you should do this. And
Say thanks,
you
but
just
no thanks.
you don't
Yep.
ask questions, just go and do it if they're the right person. But you need to be
Yeah.
aware if it's the wrong person, nod and smile, and as you work,
Carry
go get back
on,
to grinding away. So
Yeah, I will never forget the day that I brought it up to my wife and her entire family that I was going to go into business, for myself, and me and James are going to go on this journey, and we're going to do this crazy thing together. And
which we had failed at originally, by the way.
oh yeah,
We originally had done this. Well, we're in the same office, but we weren't like on the same team, if that makes sense. But
Mhm.
both of us
Yeah.
had like just miserable results.
miserable life.
And then and
For them to embrace it and just say, if anybody could do it, it would be you. And I was not expecting that because that's their daughter, and she was pregnant, and we, you know what I mean. And I was just
got
like,
married.
why leave? Yeah.
I think that's when I met you, Gary, because you're like, I'm thinking about doing this thing and like going out on my own, and like, what do you think? And if I remember right, I said,
I do remember exactly what
B,
you said. You were
what did
like-
I say?
You were like, do it. Do it. And I was like, oh my God.
So normally I say, lucky for you, I think. Normally I say, being in business for yourself is the craziest, stupidest thing you could ever do. And it's the best thing you could ever do at the exact same time. So maybe I just cut out. Maybe I just cut out. Or maybe you didn't hear the first part, or maybe I didn't say it. But either way, it's fine.
We were, well, like, it's funny because I met Gabe at a Lake Kids Biz as well, and he had this great presentation. He talked about how he was an introvert,
man,
and then he just has this like
Kids Biz, man.
incredible. He was showing us what Facebook Live was going to do for our business, and I had no idea. I remember I went up to you, and I just started talking to you, and I was trying to network with you, and I was like, hey, so what do you? You know what? I'm actually the presenter, so why don't you just wait a little bit, and then I'm sure I'll get to it today.
Pump the brakes, buddy. I'm the
can't believe it.
presenter. I'm not a lowly audience member like you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I didn't say that part.
Awkward.
No.
But
Well, no, and I remember that you're like, oh man, I met Gabe Arnold, man, he's awesome. Like he was so good.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
geez.
yeah. I'm like, I saw him at Kids Biz too. Like it was amazing. So, but very cool.
And I wasn't such a jerk to you guys that you still talk to me, which is huge because
yeah.
I have done plenty of that in my life. So thanks for forgiving me being awkward too.
Yeah. Well, no, and that circles back to that persistence thing. Is like you can't expect the presenter at whatever event you're at, or to be like, oh yeah, I have nothing going on, so let's grab lunch. So you gotta, you gotta be persistent.
You were there to. You're not about to.
So I failed.
Give
I
me your
wasn't persistent
presentation and tell me again.
Yeah.
It's all right. But you know what?
All
It was
good.
like Gabe and I kept in contact with one another.
Yep.
So this entire time, and that's
Yep.
one of the reasons why we know each other so well. We had each other. I did a Facebook Live with Gabe for one of our videos, and he was teaching
that
me
was one of the
how to
originals.
do it. That was one of the originals. Yeah.
That's
He
when
was
we had
teaching me
no
how to do
idea what
it.
we were doing, that's just how we are now. So
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
We got like a little bit better by barely a little bit.
Cool. So let's this is good because this is fun, and like now I have a full picture, which is good, and hopefully everybody listening kind of gets how insane we are and how insane it is to work for yourself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and like no, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just keep doing it every day, which is half the success point. But
Yeah.
so
Gabe,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna call timeout because
Yeah.
I know we're about to transition. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. Sorry.
Go right ahead. All right, James is fired. No.
Yeah, right. See?
I'm just kidding. He's
How's
still
it
at
going
work.
so far? Pretty good?
This is good. You guys are. This is going to be awesome. I love it.
Awesome. I mean, we're really excited because we've never been on one before. And, like, this is crazy. Because, like,
This is fun, man. This is what I'm looking for.
We're always, like, in control of, like, everything. You know, you're running the show. We're being the
I
guest.
am running the show.
Yeah, so it's different, you know, for us right now. It's been
Yeah.
I was wondering when we were going to get to the actual questions. I was like,
I
don't know.
We might just end it here. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Oh, man, no, this has been excellent. This is fun. It kind of just took me back to, I haven't gone into description in, like, a lot of detail about my professional wrestling that much. You know,
That's awesome, dude.
I was like, I can't wait to tell them this because, like, Gabe's got no idea.
I'm shocked at a whole new level. No, it's cool, dude. It's like it's crazy. It's interesting because I felt a lot of synergy with James, you know, originally, but like I screwed that up and was busy and like, you know, life, you know, which is not an excuse, but it's my excuse. And then I felt the same thing with you, and I'm like, that dude's working with James, and like, all right, you know, and I was in a better place, you know, personally, which was, you know, a huge part of when you network or don't or do the right things or not. But, you know, but then like you hear the backstory, you're like, oh, of course we get along. You know, it's like, it's just funny how that all kind of cooks together. All right,
so water out of your office.
Okay.
Delicious.
We like barreled through those. There's 40 of them. We like destroyed them.
Yeah.
All right.
All good.
So let's get back on here. So that's really valuable just backstory. And I know I love doing these interviews, like I said in the beginning, because it's really just selfishly for me because I learn a lot, which is the whole point. And of course, I hope everybody listening learns a lot from this. But I wanted to share, and kind of like I shared before in the intro before I brought you guys on to the show today, that basically you guys work and exist and are, from my perception, extremely successful in a highly regulated industry. And that industry pays your bills, and you have some challenges there. So just to kind of briefly frame it, you guys have a business that's basic in an industry that basically tells you are not allowed to directly market this product or service. And most people that I've interacted with, because I have clients and friends and, you know, colleagues and family that are in this industry, and they basically just don't market, and they do the best they can, which is fine. That's their thing. That's their choice.
Yep.
But you guys, every day on my Facebook feed, I see this IBB thing.
IBB guys won't stop. What the heck, man?
And so there's this huge brand, and you guys have completely overcome a challenge that most people in the industry don't even think about or work on at all. So basically, you know, you're in this industry that says you can't market the products directly and you can't talk about this stuff unless you're sitting face to face, one-to-one with a client, which is fine. But then James, this crazy kid named James, comes up to me a few years ago, and he's like, look at my shirt, it says IBB, and I'm like, what does that mean? And like he's all wound up about it, and it's great. So tell everybody.
Did I say look at my shirt? Look at my shirt.
That's how I felt. I don't think you said that. I'm not very good at that. So,
my name is Look at My Shirt. That was my name tag.
So
yes.
So you're in this. You have basically a product you're not allowed to market, and so you tell me how you said, you know what, I'm just going to make up something new, and then tell me what IBB means, because nobody knows what that means except for us three so far.
So
yeah, and that's where I wish I could take the credit for, like, I came up with IBB on my own, but excuse me, hold on, time out. I'm gonna answer that again. Or do you want to answer the question again?
just go ahead.
What kind of water is this, Gary? I'm like burping now. Like, what the heck, man?
Shut up.
Yeah, so I wish I could take full credit for IBB, but for the first 5 years, it was just the most maddening thing, because I'd be like, oh, I have an idea that to market or to promote me or my services, and at every turn it would get shut down. And we work in an industry where there's 4 or 5 different terms for the same exact thing. It's not common language or common knowledge, I guess you could say. And so just the marketing is 10, 20 years behind what people actually respond to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, oh, we're gonna send you a mailer, a postcard mailer, or we're gonna I don't know, like
cable spot. Yep.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
let's pay for a commercial that they'll fast forward through. But the main thing is, for the first 5 years, I was the industry drone. I was just a robot. You know what I'm saying? Is like the industry told me to do this, and I did. You know what I'm saying? I trusted that. If I did what they told me, I trusted the process, and I was successful, so to speak, I guess. On a smaller scale, but my wife, when we first started dating, we've been together about 10 months. Her family's from Houston, so we flew out to Houston. It just so happened to be the weekend of the 2013 All-Star game in Houston as well. So we fly standby because her mom works for the airline. So we actually couldn't get on the first flight we were supposed to be on coming back. And then it's all random seating. So it's a flight I'm not supposed to be on. I ordered a new phone from Verizon, like over the phone. I just called Verizon instead of, I was planning on going to the store that night, but we weren't going to get into town in time. So I buy a phone I wasn't supposed to buy yet, and sit down next to this random person in this random seat, and he just so happens to have the same phone that I had just bought. And I was like, how do you like your phone? And then the whole flight, we just just how we talked about, like, where you from, like, what's your story, just kind of like, we just talked. And his name was Constantine Howley, and he is one of the absolute best branding people on the planet. And
that's why he was there, right?
Yeah, and he was there because the company that he works with, they do branding for LeBron, for Nike, for, what I'm saying, like, and they're out of, like, the Akron, Ohio area. And, so because of that All-Star weekend, I met him, and that's where he's like, you need a brand. He's like, what's your brand? I'm like, what is a brand, man? Like, help me understand, so, like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, and for those of you listening, like, I built my business on buying people lunch, buying people dinner, and picking their brains, begging them to share and coffee. Yeah, coffee's cheaper, so you can do like 10 coffee meetings for the same price as one dinner. So if you're getting started, offer coffee. Dinner.
Dinner's for later.
Wait a few years. Build your business. But I was like, again, when you have the opportunity, and when your gut is telling you this, there's something more to this. There's something I'm missing, and that this person can offer me. So again, I was like, I don't know necessarily what you're talking about, but I believe like this needs to be something I need to know more about. Can I please buy? I'll buy you the most expensive dinner. I'll buy you drinks. I'll buy you whatever. So we actually went to, he's like, yeah, we'll meet up. We met at J. Alexander's, on like the Lyndhurst, South Beechwood area. And I said, man, anything on the menu, it's all, just get it. And, so he's like, all right, what makes you different? So those of you listening, what makes you different? So if you're trying to figure out what's my brand, or maybe you have a brand that's not working, you really have to dig deep on what makes you different. And then that's why Gary and I too, why we spend so much time saying like, hey, I'm just a punk kid from Lake County that was a lead singer in a band or a professional wrestler or whatever. What makes you different is what makes you successful. And I was like, well, I have all these certifications. I was like, I have all these certifications. I worked my tail off. I studied so hard, and now I'm the smartest man alive. Ha ha ha.
Do you see how many letters? Do you see how many letters after my name? Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you see these series of initials after my name? It's like
that nobody knows what they mean.
Nobody knows what they mean. It doesn't mean anything to anyone.
Care.
Yeah. And so
Right.
Constantine's like, well, James, do other people have that? I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, but I really care about others. Like, I really want to help people. He's like, do other people want to help people? I'm like, oh, so like, I rattled off probably, 10 things, and he's like, do other people do that? Do other people, have that? So you need someone like a Constantine, like a Gabe, like a Gary that is going to be upfront with you and continue to ask you what makes you different. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to challenge you, but still, like, not make you feel like you're a bad, like, there's no wrong answer. You just got to dig deeper for the right answer that is more unique to you. So he beat me down, and I was just getting mad. Like, that's the thing, too. You got to, what makes you different, you got to dig deep and get mad, but I was, maybe said a couple bad words. And I was like, man, like, my family got screwed over. Like, my family got taken advantage of. That's why I do what I like. That's why it's so personal for me. Like, that's why it's not work to me. That's why I'm willing to spend, like, and for you guys, I mean, I had an appointment earlier today just to open up with the minimum account value, or, just to get things going. I spent way more time than most people would for a big client, so to speak, or whatever. So, but because nothing means more to me than knowing that other people won't get screwed over on my watch. While I'm on the clock, nobody's going to get screwed over. I didn't know. That's how I survived 2008. That's how I survived the first 5 years of my business, was because that was driving me, that it meant more to me than anything that money could buy. It meant more than any promotion or whatever. Like, it was, I was on a quest, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're big Batman nerds. So it was like, literally, like, we're always trying to be the vigilante of our business. And, we're trying to save Lake County. We're trying to, or save anyone who needs help. And
Lake County is our Gotham City.
That's our Gotham, yeah. So but I was waiting for him after said, like, man, my family got screwed over. Like, that's why I get so mad. Like, that's why I get so fired up to go do what I do and help people. And I was waiting for him to say no. I was waiting for him to say wrong answer. But he just kind of, like, did one of those things where he, like, grabbed his chin and, like, kind of, like, nodded a little bit, and he's like, IBB. I'm like, what's IBB? He's like, I've been burned. It's like, that
Nice.
one's free. The next one will cost you. So Constantine Howley
is the man.
The man.
Yeah.
The man. Like I said, he does branding consulting.
Wow.
Reach out to him. He's the man. But, so, yeah, it stands for I've been burned. And, like I said, I wish I came up with that. But, that's something that, again, what makes me different also makes me relatable to other people. Everybody's been burned in some way. Everybody's been screwed over in some way. And unfortunately, unfortunately, that's the, and we can see, we're talking about, like, millennials and this and whatever. It's like, a lot of people say, well, that's the world we live in now. It's like, that's the world we lived in forever.
Right.
Like, this isn't the first time that, why did, like, kings and queens have their servants drink the wine in case they were about to get poisoned? Like, people have been
Right.
People have been taking advantage of each other forever. So this isn't unique to our generation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So obviously that's
No,
And
that's
on a-
good. That's
you know,
good.
so like we're actually better, you know, like we're
Yeah.
actually better than it used to be, you know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I've been burned, and it's just kind of it's grown into this,
To your
you know,
brand.
creed, this mantra. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a brand. But yeah, so I've been burned. That's what it means, and that is the lens that we view the world through. Is that whatever someone asks us to do, that's the mission that comes into perspective for us. And you know, so that when I stole Gary back, you know, he was kicking butt, he was getting promotion after promotion after promotion. He was, you know, running,
Mr.
running, you know, got a
GQ
bunch
banker.
of people. Yeah, that's right. You know, just being the man. And I was, so same thing. I'm like, Gary, you need a brand, bro. Like, you need a brand, man. Like, you're gonna come back, man. You're gonna run your own business. You got a brand. And you know, so like,
Yeah, he was telling me to get my own. And I was like,
so I'm telling him.
all right.
And
I was
so
thinking
I'm like,
about it.
and I was like, what makes you different, Gary? And then Gary, you take it away.
So he was trying to break me down and put me through the same process, you know, how this branding has changed his life.
Trying to make a man.
And yeah, he was trying to
get you to body slam him in the
Get you
ring.
Fired up,
Yeah.
man.
Oh yeah. So he asked me, you know, what drives you crazy, you know, like, you know, what makes you different? And he's telling me his story, and when he's sitting down with Constantine and how he broke him down all the way to the point to where he told me about his family. And I said, okay. I'm like, well, something like that happened to me. And just like how James was saying, it's very relatable, you know, like somebody knows somebody that's been taken advantage of, or, you know, been screwed over, whatever you want to call it. Like, my mother got taken advantage of and actually had to go back to work for 6.5 more years. So that's why I work as hard as I can, because I saw how hard it was for her to work third shift at the hospital raising 2 boys on single income. So I never want to have to see anybody struggle like that. And I don't want to do that. I don't want that to be the life for my daughter or my wife or anybody that I know and care about. So it was funny because James said...
What was my answer? Do you remember my answer after you told me that?
Your story is better than mine.
Yeah, I was like, your IBB is better than my IBB. Like, what the heck, man?
No, and I remember that you told me that, James, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I was like, that makes sense. And then I remember when Gary told me, and like, he wasn't crying, but I felt like he wasn't tearing up, but like, I'm pretty, as an introvert, I'm very like emotionally aware, I feel like. So I felt like that he was like tearing up inside. He was telling me about his mom and like how hard it was, and like that really hit home with me. And I was like, I've been burned and, you know, hurt and things like that, not on necessarily the exact same front like what you guys have talked about, but the same thing. And I was like, wow, this guy gets it. Like his family's been through something hard at least. And that really stuck out. And I think something that you just said a minute ago, James, is like a huge takeaway. And that's something that I'm going to apply in a huge way myself. And I think everybody listening should too. And you said, you know, what makes me different makes me relatable. All right. Well, that was absolutely fantastic. I think there's a lot that we can all learn about entrepreneurship. I think a lot of honesty there, a lot of really valuable advice from both James and Gary. And you can find out more about them and what they're up to. Easiest thing to do is go to teamibb.com. So teamibb.com, and I'll put that in the show notes. And that's the best place to find out about them. And definitely tune in next week. We'll have the second part of the interview ready to go then. And I will see you guys all then. Are you looking to get started successfully?
Today I want to invite you to join the Start Successfully Mastermind group. You can check it out by going to startsuccessfully.com/mastermind. There, I'll share all the details with you, and you can give it a try for just $1 for the first week. Inside the group, I'll share with you all the templates, all the details and strategies and everything that I'm doing to build out the new businesses that I'm working on, and you'll also get insider strategies and tips from our guests. So go ahead and check it out, startsuccessfully.com/mastermind, and we'll see you on the inside.
Thanks for listening to the Start Successfully podcast. To connect with Gabe Arnold or with our guests and resources from today's show, please visit startsuccessfully.com.